we really much appreciate your organisation for this meeting. I know it may have come at short notice, but thank you for all the work, and I'm sure you're extremely busy with other things. So, my name is Dave Webb. I am the convener of the Global Network Against Weapons and Nuclear Power in Space, which is an international organisation which tries to highlight, well, I think it does it quite well when it's given a chance, highlight the role of the military use of space technology, and how important that is to the military all over the world, in fact, these days. I'm also the chair of the Campaign for Nuclear Disarmament in the UK, which has been around now for quite a long time, and has been campaigning against nuclear weapons, and in particular against the British nuclear weapon system, the Trident submarine system. But I'm also Vice President, I think that's the title, for the International Peace Bureau, where I've been involved in that for quite a long time as well. So that's just a kind of bit about me. This presentation that I will give now, it was put together for the conference that was held in Stockholm on the 3rd of February, about a week ago now, nearly, or over, which was the idea of Agneta Norberg, which I think many of you will know. She suggested the title, The North, a Zone of Peace. She suggested making Scandinavia, most of Scandinavia really, or as much as possible, a zone free of NATO, free of weapons, free of the military. And that seems like a really good idea to me. In fact, it should be extended, of course, to cover the whole of Europe. It was Agneta's 80th birthday, the day after, I think it was the day after the conference. So this was a kind of celebration of her many active years in the peace movement. So I started the talk by just saying, or pointing out how many military operations the United States carries out in Europe in particular. And the most recent of those was something called Operation Atlantic Resolve. And in this, thousands of troops and military vehicles arrived in Germany from the United States, where they were joined by over 1,000 other vehicles from storage facilities in the Netherlands. And these military units then moved out across Eastern Europe for exercises with their allies there and in the Baltic region. And since the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989, the United States has also established military bases in many ex-Soviet Union countries: Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland and Hungary, where it also frequently carries out war training activities, as shown in this map. This is a map which is obtained from the United States military website itself, so it's not something I've invented. It's something the US military is quite proud of. Those are the military events it's held recently in Europe.
What do you mean by events, sorry?
Well, military exercises, basically. So these exercises are not reported by Western media, which instead reports continuously of a threat from Russia. And then, of course, there's NATO. And last year, just a few weeks before the NATO summit in Warsaw, one of the largest NATO exercises since the end of the Cold War took place in Western Poland. It was called Anaconda 16. In this, around 30,000 troops and numerous vehicles, aircraft and ships from over 20 countries were involved in a massive show of force. The 10-day exercise came at the same time as a sharp deterioration in relations between Russia and NATO. Moscow criticized the exercises and commented that the war games do not contribute to the atmosphere of trust and safety on the continent. NATO, however, continues to drive military spending and to promote military intervention and posturing as the way to keep the peace. We have learned in Britain from the Chilcot inquiry into the Iraq war that the reasons given for going to war must always be challenged, and we have to continually do that. And in fact, we did do that, a group of us from international organisations in Warsaw, where we held a protest and a counter-summit at the same time as the NATO summit. And then, of course, NATO is very active within Scandinavia. In February and March last year, NATO held its annual 2 weeks of high-intensity operations in central Norway called Exercise Cold Response 2016. And this included land, sea and air mobilisations with military contributions from 12 NATO members and 2 partner nations. 15,000 troops took part, and the increasing frequency of these exercises has led to the US establishing storage depots for tanks and amphibious assault vehicles in Norway. NATO's military exercises are undoubtedly designed to show Russia what the West is prepared to do to ensure access to new sea routes and new resources that become available as the Arctic ice recedes due to climate change. And so it goes on. Last July, as you're probably aware, the Swedish government signed an agreement allowing NATO to operate more easily on Swedish territory for exercises or in the event of war. In September, Sweden announced that it was remilitarising the island of Gotland, halfway between Sweden and Latvia in the middle of the Baltic Sea. A permanent garrison is to be re-established there in April. And previously, in November 2015, Sweden's Skaraborg Regiment and Martofta's Tank Company carried out an exercise in the Gotland archipelago. And there are also calls for NATO to militarise the Öland Islands, or however you say that. Öland, sorry. That's a group of Finnish islands which you are familiar with, I'm sure, which have been demilitarised since the Treaty of Paris ended the Crimean War in 1856. But there is a call for NATO to militarise those islands again. And also an unofficial agreement between Denmark and the Soviet Union that Bornholm Island would not be used by the NATO is also under threat. This September, Aurora 2017 will be the largest military exercise in Sweden in more than 20 years. While we've been travelling in Sweden, we've seen that there's a building opposition to that exercise, and we would join you in supporting that, of course. The US will be practicing how to move troops from Trondheim in Norway to Sweden in the event of escalating military tensions in the Baltic region. An advanced guard of US Marines has already been established in Trondheim. But we're here to tell you, or to remind you, that warfighting is not just about troops and tanks. Today the military depends upon space power. Military commanders and decision makers require information and control. Information about targets, troop movements, the weather, and so on, and control of the movement of military components, such as ships, tanks, personnel, drones, etc. And today, military operations are informed by and controlled through satellite systems. In theory, space systems provide for the command and control of all branches of the military, allowing them to operate with precision and in a coordinated way. Global surveillance and photo reconnaissance are also used for planning and provide opportunities for the military to locate, monitor, track and target any groups or individuals they may be interested in. In 2013, the Global Network annual meeting was held in Kiruna to draw attention to Sweden's growing involvement in NATO war exercises, satellite communications and advanced weapons testing. Kiruna Station is used extensively by the European Space Agency, with routine operations being fully automated and controlled from the European Space Operations Centre in Darmstadt in Germany. Many of these operations are supported or provided by Swedish companies and the Swedish government, and help to support the military and hegemonic interests of the United States and NATO. While in Kiruna, we also visited the S-Range Space Centre, which is part of the North European Aerospace Test Range, or NEAT, covering 24,000 square kilometres in northern Sweden. NEAT is Europe's largest testing area for aerospace systems, and also includes the Vidsel drone and missile test range. The world's largest satellite receiving station is at S-Range, through which the military funnels huge amounts of data. While there, though, we were also able to demonstrate our disapproval of those kind of activities. In 2015, some of us, i.e. that is myself and Bruce, went to Sicily to support the protest there against another part of this global military system. At Nisemi in Sicily, it's one of the 4 relay stations used by the US Navy's Mobile User Objective System, MUOS, or MUOS, of narrowband tactical satellite communication system designed to improve ground communications for the US forces. You can see on the map there are those 4 relay installations in various parts of the world, one of them in Sicily, one in Australia, one in the United States, and the other in Hawaii, or Hawaii is the United States too, I guess.
And what is going on in Greenland?
In Greenland, no, there's nothing going on particularly there. That's just to indicate the connection between.
Oh, I see.
They connect through satellite systems. So it should supposed to be coming out into space. Yeah, actually, while saying that, I'm not really that familiar with how involved Denmark is in all of these systems and satellite systems and so on. So any information you have about that would be really useful. We know quite a bit about Sweden, something about Norway, but not so much about Denmark. So if you have anything, please let us know.
Do we know anything?
Well, we can talk at the end. The opposition, the local opposition there in Sicily is very large, it's active, it's angry, and it's very well organised, as you can see from the size of this protest. MUOS is due to provide faster data transfer and broadband connection via satellite systems similar to those used in smartphones. So here you see in this picture, it will enable soldiers, individual soldiers, to communicate directly with various other components of whatever is the military exercise or the war-fighting machine, and enable them to obtain data, information, and relay back data and information as well. In 2013, the connection here between this station in the Mediterranean and with the north of Scandinavia is that in 2013, Lockheed Martin demonstrated that it was possible through this system to extend Arctic communications almost to the North Pole. And this is probably the most northerly successful call to a geosynchronous satellite, and demonstrates the importance of the system to the military operating in the far north. The Arctic is also an important region for receiving satellite signals, as the high latitude means that information can be downloaded for all of the daily passes of military polar orbiting satellites. Bard Rondal showed us in Kiruna how the satellite receiving station established by the US and Norway on the island of Svalbard, which I'm sure you're aware of, was being used for military purposes, violating the 1920 Treaty of Svalbard between Russia and Norway. So this is the Svalbard satellite station on the island there called Svalsat. The treaty, the 1920 treaty between Russia and Norway strictly forbids military operations of any kind from being carried out from the island. The US military is therefore encircling the globe in space and on the ground with satellite and computer network systems. The global network Keep Space for Peace Week last year focused on the US military chokehold on Russia and China and included a number of European and Scandinavian events in Britain, Germany, Italy, Sweden and Norway. One of the activities was a conference which was held in Vadsø in the northern tip of Norway, close to Vardø, which is home to a large US Space Command radar station within easy reach of Russia. The conference explored, among other things, the gathering and sharing of signals intelligence, or so-called SIGINT, and communications intelligence, COMINT, between Norway and the NSA, the National Security Agency of the United States, whose main job is to spy on other countries. They've had this continuous collaboration since 1952. These electronic intelligence gathering systems are used extensively and continuously before, during and after military operations. In the same week, in the south of England, a rally was held at the US base at Croughton, a relay centre for the CIA, which was named in leaked documents as playing a key role in embassy-based spying. So data from the network of US embassy spy posts, such as those which were used for eavesdropping on Angela Merkel's mobile phone, are channeled to Washington through this particular facility. In 2013, a secure fibre optic link was laid between Croughton and the US Air Base at Camp Lemonnier in Djibouti to coordinate drone strikes over the Yemen. And in 2014, the United States announced it's going to spend £200 million on upgrading the intelligence facilities at the base to provide world-class combat support, quote, for activities including global strike operations, quote. Two other Keep Space for Peace events were held in the north of England, one at the US spy base at Menwith Hill and the other at the Missile Defence Radar at Fylingdales. Both of these bases are important components in the US global military system. Menwith Hill is a huge US NSA and National Reconnaissance Office base with surveillance, drone operation, missile defence and military intelligence functions. Fylingdales is a US-UK ballistic missile early warning system and US space surveillance and missile defence radar facility, part of the US missile defence system. In September last year, the online investigative journal called The Intercept revealed that the NSA documents provided by Edward Snowden showed that intelligence gathered through satellite technology at Menwith Hill helped the US with targeted killings. Advanced surveillance programs used there have located so-called suspected terrorists accessing the internet in remote parts of the world, and it provides support for conventional British and American military operations in Iraq and Afghanistan. So the UK and US governments work together in order to maintain lucrative arms sales and aid Saudi Arabia in its serious breaches of international law in Yemen. The UK government has lied to Parliament by denying its role in these illegal operations, and for centuries it seems the primary function of the British state has been to aid British companies in getting hold of other countries' resources. The US, of course, is doing the same, but on a much larger scale, and has established 800 or so military bases around the world to further its empirical reach. This global imperialism is dressed up in propaganda as countering terrorism or improving world security or working with our allies, and similar piety is propagated by the mainstream media. Scandinavia is also involved. Sweden is an important part of the global information gathering network, with listening posts at Löfville, as shown here just south of Gothenburg, and the island of Löven near Stockholm. The day before the conference where I presented this, we actually went to visit Löven. A few of us gathered outside the base there. You can see in the background the woman, I don't know what she was, military police, I guess, telling us we shouldn't be taking photographs. But we took a few. And this was us gathered a bit somewhere else, in fact, by the lake, I think by the King's Palace or something like that, where we gathered for photo opportunity, as they say. You'll recognise Agneta there as well, I think. So electronic signals are intercepted here directly, and also from a ship operated by the Swedish Navy and 2 Gulfstream aircraft operated by the Swedish Air Force. In addition, Sweden controls the fibre optic cables through the Eastern Sea and has a third-party agreement in surveillance with the so-called Five Eyes. Five Eyes is the US, the UK, Australia, New Zealand and Canada. They've joined together into an intelligence gathering and sharing agreement, which was formed first of all in 1949. They have these listening posts all around the world. And now, since 1949, they've involved a number of other countries, including Sweden, and maybe even Denmark, I don't know. But also, in 2008, the FRA, the Swedish FRA, were given expansive powers to intercept all communications travelling over fibre optic networks into and out of Sweden, and these are the major routes for the fibre optic cables going from Russia. This would include emails, text messages and telephone calls. The Norwegian intelligence service also works closely with the NSA, and in 2013 was reported as providing it with tens of millions of communications every month, focusing on Russian politicians, the military and energy targets in particular. We also heard at the conference in Stockholm that a satellite receiving station at Fauske in northern Norway has been involved in relaying information on to the US and the UK for many years. For example, in 1982, during the Falklands War, it was able to provide valuable information on Argentinian ship movements to the UK that had been intercepted from Russian satellites. At that time, the UK and the US did not have satellites that could provide this information, but the Russians did, and these were intercepted at Fauske and passed on. A large percentage of Russian communications travel through Sweden, and surveillance data has been shared with the NSA there since 2011, including a unique collection on high-priority Russian targets such as leadership, internal politics and energy. Finland too has a satellite receiving station at Sodanklia in the north, which does downlink data from the European Space Agency's Copernicus satellite, which we also heard at the Stockholm conference has a dual use, that is, it works for the military and civilian groups. And so capabilities, and so the Finnish government is now discussing its surveillance policy as well with the United States. This is aimed partly at gaining access to new undersea cable system called Sea Lion, which you can see the yellow cable there, which is under construction, which will enable the Russian communications to bypass Sweden and go directly to Germany. So they won't be able to intercept them in Sweden anymore. Therefore, we need the US requires cooperation from Finland in order to intercept further those communications. So therefore, the Baltic Sea is seen by many as a major theatre in a new type of arms race, cyber warfare. In 2016, in Warsaw, NATO agreed to recognise cyberspace as an operational domain alongside air, land and sea. Therefore, cyber attacks against NATO countries can potentially trigger an Article 5 military response, that is, an attack on one country is an attack on all. This increases the possibility of NATO taking collective military action. However, determining the source of cyber attacks is not so easy, and technical evidence of them is rarely shared or clarified. Cyber warfare and hacking techniques are being used not only to attack technical installations, but also to plant false information to be used as propaganda by governments, the media and corporate interests. And NATO and Russia have accused each other of spreading false news to win over public opinion. Sweden is involved in a US cyber war project called Quantum, and one of its operations, known as Winterlight, is a joint FRA, NSA and GCHQ. GCHQ is the UK equivalent of the FRA and the NSA. So it's the three countries have got this project together that involves hacking targeted computer systems and with subsequent data interception, with diversion and tampering. In 2014, Latvia, Estonia, Germany, Italy, Lithuania, Poland and the UK signed a memorandum to establish a so-called Strategic Command Centre of Excellence in Riga, Latvia, and Sweden joined this in 2015. You can see from this map, these are the US NATO centres of excellence for cyber warfare scattered around Europe. And there's also one up in Norway, near Fauske, which we looked at earlier, which we saw earlier. So this, sorry, and there's more. On top of all of this, there's also NATO and US missile defence bases in Europe, which are provoking Russia. Soon after his election in 2008, President Obama shifted the emphasis of US missile defence from defending the US homeland against intercontinental ballistic missiles to defending military operations against regional battleground threats. In so doing, he expanded the ship-based Aegis missile defence interception system and developed a land-based version called Aegis Ashore. This is the ship-based system firing an interceptor missile from the ship. This ship-based system can be readily positioned around the globe, and as of March last year, 17 were assigned to the Pacific Fleet, 16 to the Atlantic Fleet, and 4 of them are deployed in the Mediterranean. The US Navy's shipbuilding plans project a total of between 80 and 97 by the end of 2043. The ship's being built at Bath Iron Works in Maine, which is where Bruce lives, and therefore it's subject to regular demonstrations. The Aegis Ashore system is composed of a vertical launcher and support facility similar to that being used on the ships. This is the land-based version. And of course they're being built in addition to the Aegis on ships. The US Army has also developed a land-based mobile terminal high altitude area defence or THAAD system to be deployed against short and intermediate range missiles. I think Bruce might talk more about this. These aren't necessarily, really being deployed in Europe, but more in the Pacific region. In 2010, NATO decided to expand the programme to cover Europe with Command Centre at Ramstein Air Base in Germany. Ramstein is a huge military base in Germany, again subject to regular demonstrations, but I think it's the biggest US military base outside of the United States. It's responsible for coordinating not only missile defence in Europe, but also things like drone strikes and other military activity. In 2012, A forward-based X-band radar system was established in Turkey. That's the bottom right of the picture here. And in 2014, the US established the Aegis Ashore Naval Support Facility in Romania. That's the top picture. So it has these three components of missile defence in different countries in Europe. The European missile defence system of NATO and the US was declared active in 2016, and the whole system was declared operational. The US also confirmed agreements to base another Aegis Ashore interceptor system in Poland by 2018, and the hosting of US Aegis missile defence ships in Rota in southern Spain. The US claims that these bases are needed as a defence against North Korea and Iran. Yeah, you may well have. But of course Russia sees them differently. It sees, this is the picture from Russia, it sees these bases being clustered around its borders, and China as well. Moscow believes that the purpose of missile defence is to downgrade its nuclear effectiveness by disabling its ability to retaliate to a US nuclear first strike. And Russia has repeatedly asked for legally binding assurances that NATO missile interceptors would not be used against Moscow's strategic missiles. However, Washington is unwilling to do this. Russia has reacted by deploying short-range Iskander missiles in Kaliningrad, close to the Polish border, as a countermeasure. And in turn, this action and the conflict in Ukraine is used to justify the increase in military activity by the US and NATO. So both sides are ratcheting up the tension and the military action on the borders. The US is also establishing THAAD and Patriot missile defense systems and military bases in the Pacific region, causing China similar concerns. So you can see this figure here shows the pressure being applied to China and to Russia through US and NATO. Opposition to these confrontational global military systems is therefore extremely important, as they are ratcheting up confrontation with Russia in Europe and China in the Pacific region. Moves towards nuclear disarmament are being blocked, and new arms races and new forms of warfare are developing, leading to potentially disastrous consequences. The Western governments and media continue to claim that the increase in US and NATO military activities and the establishment of bases along Eastern Europe and Scandinavian borders is in response to Russia's actions in Ukraine and Kaliningrad. However, Russia sees NATO and the US pushing military bases and escalating aggressive military exercises ever closer to its borders, despite promises that it would not go there. NATO has 3.5 million troops stationed in over 100 bases in a ring around Russia, while Russia has some 900,000 armed troops. And according to figures supplied by Cypri on military spending, this is the military spending figures for 2015, you can see from these, the United States has spent 36% of the global world share on military spending. And if you add up all the NATO members, all their contributions to military spending, it's well over 50% of the world's military spending is actually carried out by NATO members. Russia, on the other hand, is responsible for 4% of military spending, global military spending. So the question here is, who do you feel is the most aggressive? Who do you feel is most likely ones to be building up the military, Russia or NATO? So I will finish there with just to say, I think your role in all this is very important. Of course, in Scandinavia, the opposition to NATO, the opposition to the militarization of the EU is extremely important. So we really should be working much more closely together, I think, on an international scale. And hopefully we can get rid of some of this threat to our very existence. So thank you for listening. I'll be very happy to hear any information you can provide.